for me because I'm not a super loud talker.
Oh, there we go. I am a very loud singer, but not a very loud talker. I am very excited to see you. Someone already asked if I'm going to sing today, and I am not. Sorry, but you can find me on YouTube if you want, but ask your parents if it's okay. I am so excited to be here with you today. I have been looking forward to seeing you for a long time. I don't live very far away. I actually live in Columbus, so it's about 2 hours up here for me. Today it was a beautiful day to drive because the trees are all such pretty colors, and I had such a nice time actually looking at the trees. But I am up here to talk to you about my book. And if I were you, when I was your age, and really even now, I always want to know what's about to happen. That's how I work. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about writing. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my family, because this book is nonfiction, which you guys know means it's a true story. It really happened. So I'm going to tell you the story of how this book came to be. And then I'm going to tell you quite a bit about what it would be like if you were a kid growing up in China, because some of my kids were growing up in China before they joined my family. And then I'm going to teach you a little bit of Chinese. I'm going to try really hard. We're a little tight on our time to get all that in, but I'm going to try really hard to have time at the end for a few questions. So if as we're going you have questions, try to hold them in your head, because I'll take them at the end if I can. And I think we should get started. I'm excited. So this is my book. I know your librarian said she has been reading it to all of you. So have most of you already gotten to hear it? Yeah. I'm going to read it again today. I'll do it in just a minute, but I wanted to first talk to you about writing. So I'm an author. I've had kids tell me they didn't even know authors were real. We are real. We're actually people. But an author, most people think, oh, an author writes books. And I do. I've written a couple books, and I love that. But do you know, I did not start off writing books. Do you know, how many of you guys like to make stuff? Yeah? I love to make things. I'm so glad so many of you like to make things. That's called creativity. And you can make all kinds of things. And I wasn't so much thinking, oh, I want to write books. I was thinking, I just like to make stuff. I really like to make things. So actually, when I started writing, I didn't start by writing books. I started out by writing songs, which is, I tell people a song is just a 3-minute story. That's all it is. You have one idea, just like you do in a book. You have one idea, and there's usually a beginning, middle, and end, and you're telling a story. You just do it in 3 minutes instead of doing it in a book. So I've written thousands and thousands of songs, and that's pretty cool. And I've gotten to go all over the world with my songs, which is really fun. And one of the things that has happened to me as I've gone around the world, I work with a group called Compassion International, and we help kids who don't have enough money. So, and a lot of times when we say that, kids are like, yeah, I would like more money, but I mean like kids who maybe they aren't even able to go to school, they don't have a house, they don't have food, like they really don't have enough money. And we help them be able to go to school, have a house, do all that stuff. Because I think every kid should have a safe house and get to go to school and have a family that takes care of them, right? So while we were doing that, when we would travel around with that, I actually met a whole lot of kids who did not have families. And that made my brain think in some other ways. And I started thinking about, could we be a family for some kids who didn't have a family, which is how this book came to be. But I use my writing to write songs. I use my writing to write. I've written 6 kids' plays. I use my writing, I write all the time for magazines and online articles. I've written books for grown-ups. I've written this kid's book. I just use my writing for all kinds of things. And a lot of kids, sometimes I meet kids who really love to write. I've literally met kids who are like, I already have my first book done. How do I get it published? And I've met kids who are like, I really don't like to write. I think it's very hard. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. I know a lot of authors. I'm friends with a lot of people, too. We would all tell you writing can be really hard. I have a friend who has published a book every year since she was like, she's got like 25 books now. And she is a New York Times best-selling author. And she would tell you, writing can be really hard. Writing can be hard, but writing is fun. Like you get to make the words move around and say exactly what you want to say. It's communicating your ideas to other people. And that's what's exciting. So when you work on your writing, There's nothing that you want to do in the world that wouldn't be made better. You don't have to be an author. There's nothing that you want to do when you grow up that wouldn't be better and easier if you were a good writer. So make sure you're doing your, I use it, one of the ways that I do it that's really cool that people don't think should be writing, when I make music videos. When I make music videos, somebody has to come up with the plot line. That's like making a little mini movie, right? And then one of the ways we write, even though it doesn't use words, when we do a music video, we do something called storyboarding, which is a little bit like how you would make a comic book, where you take paper and you make in pictures what you want people to see on the screen, but you're writing a story in pictures. That's actually how I did this, because I'm used to storyboarding all the time for my videos. So when I wrote this book, I storyboarded the book. Now here's a secret. I'm a good writer and I'm a good singer. I am not a good drawer. I am not an artist, a visual artist at all. I'm not good at that. So when I say I storyboarded it in stick figures, because I'm not good at that. But guess who's really, really good at art? My daughter. My oldest daughter, Rena, just finished college last year, and she went to college to be an illustrator. She actually just moved to Chicago, and she's illustrating full time, which is crazy, but she and I did this book together, and we thought it would be really cool. So I am going, let me tell you the family story, and then I'm going to read it for you real quick, even though I know many of you have heard it. So like I told you, I was meeting kids who maybe needed a family. And so my husband and I, we decided that we wanted to adopt some kids. You know, there's lots of ways to make a family. And I meet a lot of kids who are adopted, and sometimes they think they're the only one. And I was gonna say, do you know there are literally millions of people who are adopted in the United States alone? Like, adoption is very normal. It's just another way to join your family. So our family has 3 kids who were, we say, biological, which means I had a baby in my tummy and then I had a kid. And then we have 3 kids who were adopted from China. And these are the 3 who were adopted from China. But when they were adopted, they were actually your age. So Ethan, when he came, he was in 3rd grade. Noah, when he came, he was in 4th grade. And Anna, when she came, she was in 1st grade. So I want you to think, I know you guys are all 3rd and 4th grade, right? So I want you to picture in your head, just a little bit, what it would feel like if it was you. What if you needed a new family and they came to you and they said, we found a family for you, but they live on the other side of the world. You guys don't speak the same language. You're gonna have to go to another country and everything will be different. How do you think you might feel? You can just think it in your head, but I'll tell you the words I hear most often. Most often kids say they'd feel scared, they'd feel worried, they'd feel sad, they'd feel mad, and then I also hear happy and excited. Well, guess what? You just hit them all. That's exactly how my kids felt. My kids were actually pretty happy and excited because they had been waiting a long time. They'd never had a family. They really wanted one. And that's one thing I want to say too. When kids get adopted, it is never anything the kid did ever. It's always a problem with the adults or the country or something. Maybe there was a war or a big storm. There's always another reason, but it's never the kid. My kids didn't have parents and they wanted them. And so they were excited, but then they were also mostly scared. I mean, like, really, we couldn't even talk to each other. I only knew for about 6 months before that we were going to China, because I didn't really pick China. I actually knew I wanted to adopt one of my kiddos, and he happened to be in China, so I had to go there. But, so I only had like 6 months, so I only learned a little bit of Chinese before we went. I knew what we call emergency Chinese, like I knew how to say, are you hungry or do you need the bathroom? But I didn't really know how to say much else. And they didn't know any English at all. So you can imagine how scary that would be. And when they got to the United States, everything is really different here from the way it is in China. Whatever you're used to, like the way the foods that you eat and the shows that you watch and the holidays that you do and all that stuff, that's all called together, that's called your culture, right? If you go to another culture where things are different, that's called culture shock. And I've gotten to travel, like I said, all over the world. I have definitely experienced some culture shock quite a few times. Someone's given me a food that I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And then you have to figure out, like, Am I gonna be brave and try something new? You know, so that's culture shock. Well, they were living it. And so they were pretty scared. And so one of the things they really missed was their food. Do you guys want me to tell you a secret about China that most people do not know?
What?
Guess what they don't have in China? Cheese. There's almost no cheese in China. They don't make it there really. If they get cheese, they get it from somewhere else. So guess what that means? No cheeseburger. No grilled cheese. No mac and cheese. And here's the kicker. No pizza. I know. Now listen. Now that actually, boys and girls, that actually is a little bit of a lie. You can get pizza in China, but it is real weird. So you don't really want to get pizza in China, I'll just be honest. But the food in China is amazing. If you've had Chinese food here, lots of people have had Chinese food here. Here's another secret. That's not really Chinese. The Chinese food we have here is mostly, well, you can get real Chinese, but it's kind of hard to find. What we call Chinese food is really Chinese American. It's something we invented during the gold rush. Teachers, if you want to look into that, it's actually a super interesting story. But we invented a whole new food and we called it Chinese. It's not really. The food in China, though, is amazing. I've been all over the world, and the food in China is my favorite food I've ever had anywhere in the whole world, including the United States, and yes, I've said it. So, they came here, and they're missing their food. And so I said, and one day, Noah, in the blue, he said, will you make me dumplings? And I said, oh, I don't know how to make dumplings. And he looked like, what? Like, where in China, every mother, every dad, everybody knows how to make dumplings. That's like your parents saying, I don't know how to toast. I mean, like, he kind of looked at me like, I'm not even sure you're gonna be a good mom. Like, if you don't know that, how can you take care of me? And I was like, you know what, we can learn that. And so that's what the book is. So let me read you the book. This is the inside of the book. I just put it this way so you can see it bigger on the screen. Okay, Dumplings Mean Family. I will say dumplings is, just, people know what a dumpling is? Yeah, it's just like a round circle noodle, and it has something inside. You can put anything you want inside. But the one in this book is pork and cabbage, because that's the most traditional flavor up in northern China. But you can have all kinds of dumplings, and then they fold it in half like a moon and pinch it shut and cook it, and you eat it with a sauce. The sauce is usually salty and spicy. You can make it as spicy as you want, though. Don't get worried. Kids get worried about that. So these right here, those are dumplings. And then these are noodles, and this is fish, because the foods that they miss the most, Noah missed dumplings, Anna missed noodles, and Ethan missed fish. Okay, Dumplings Mean Family. They never met before they came to our family. That's always a question kids ask. They had never met before. Okay, hi, my name is Ethan. I have a big family, and here's Ethan saying ni hao, which is how you say hello in Chinese. Some of us were born in China, and some of us were born in the United States. When my brother and sister and I were little, we lived in China. We lived in different cities and had different caregivers. We didn't have parents of our own. We ate many common Chinese foods like dumplings and whole steamed fish and noodles. And here I've drawn a dot on China to show you where they were in the country. Noah was from way up north, and Ethan and Anna were from 2 cities in the south, like 2 hours apart. And so they actually all remember very different foods because they had very different foods in their different regions. When we got older, our new parents came to China and adopted us into their family. It was very scary to leave China, but I was also happy to have a family of my own. When we got to the United States, so many things were different. The language, the schools, the houses, the holidays, even the people looked different. But one thing that was so different was the food. When we first got to our new home, we were worried we would never have yummy food again. Our parents could cook, but they only knew how to make American food. We wondered why American food came in such big pieces and why it was so dry without sauce. And why did Americans separate their food into piles and eat with forks? It was too different for us. We miss Chinese food. Do you know when my Anna first came here and she got her first plate of American breakfast, which does not exist in China at all, and someone gave her a waffle and an egg and bacon, and she was so confused, and so she just, and they don't use knives, like, usually they cut their food up before they give it to you, so they're like, she's like, what do I do with these big pieces? So I cut it all up for her because I knew she didn't know what to do with it, and she just looked at me and mixed it all up in one thing and tried to eat it that way, because she was like, why would anyone ever eat these big chunks of food like this? It was very confusing to her. My brother asked my mom to make dumplings. Everyone in China eats dumplings, but our new mom said she didn't know how. We were shocked. We thought every parent would know how to make dumplings. We thought we would never eat dumplings again. My mom said she would buy some at the grocery store. They were okay, but they weren't the same. They were bland and mushy from the freezer, and they didn't taste right. My mom saw how sad we were. Not having the dumplings we remembered was making us homesick for China. My mom said, let's learn to make dumplings. She asked us about our favorite kinds and looked up different recipes. Then she called her friends for help. We went to Mr. and Mrs. Chung's house to practice. Mr. and Mrs. Chung are real people. They've been my friends for a long time, and they live around the corner from me. They showed us how to make fresh filling from scratch and taught us different ways to fold them. When the dumplings were done, they were so delicious, just like we remembered. My mom thought we were ready to try it on our own. She made the filling first, and next she set out stacks of dumpling wrappers for everyone and little bowls of water to seal them. Then we had a dumpling party. I'm gonna come back to this, not this page, but back to the Chinese later, but you can see that we labeled things you would normally put in dumplings, and we labeled them in English on the top, and then the next line is Chinese, and then the next line is something we call pinyin. And pinyin is how one would pronounce the Chinese or type it in a computer, because you can imagine these, we call them characters. It's the same as the word character in a book, but it's a different meaning. But you write in Chinese, you write in characters, and there you can't type a character into the computer. So when the computer started happening, they started trying to figure out how to use letters. All the kids folded and pinched the wrappers around the filling while my parents cooked the dumplings. We ate them while we worked. We tried them boiled and pan-fried and steamed. We ate them with vinegar and soy sauce and chili oil. They were so yummy, and our family laughed so much together as we folded and ate dumplings. And this is something we still do. We call them dumpling parties. We do them all the time, and everybody folds the dumplings, and we usually make a couple hundred because they freeze really well. Now my family loves to cook so many Chinese foods. We learned to make them all together. We prepared dumplings for my brother, and whole steamed fish for me, and noodles for my little sister. We have also found American foods we like. It's good to like different things. My parents say our family is American and our family is Chinese. We are proud to be both. We may be different in some ways, but we are one family. And you can see on our table we have some American food over here, we have some Chinese food over here. And then this is our actual family. I'll blow this up a little bit so you can see us. So here is, even bigger. Here's Rinna, she's the one who did the pictures. Here's Rachel. She is in college right now. She's actually in Ecuador right now because she is studying climate change. This is my husband, Nathan. Here's Anna and me. This is my oldest son, Toby. Here's Ethan, and here's Noah. And Noah wants you to know that he is definitely taller than Ethan. He just leaned over in this picture. And, I don't think I need to resolve that right now. I know, I can't even see. Oh, there's an X. Okay. And then here's my dog, Pepper, and here's my dog, Kodiak. Okay. Yeah, Kodiak, the boy's name is Kodiak. They wanted him to sound manly because he's nice. And then here are some Chinese words from the book. And if you go to our website, which is dumplingsmeanfamily.com, if you want to go visit the website, there's lots of cool stuff on there. But one thing is a video of Ethan and Noah teaching you to say all these words. So if you want to learn the right way to say them, and I'm going to teach you a little bit of them, but if you want to know the right way to say them, they put a video up, and I put bloopers at the end because they were very funny when they filmed it. And another thing is that we have here, I'll go down, here's our recipe. We put up videos of our family cooking the dumplings, so if you want to try to make them with your family, you can do that. And if you're the kind of person who likes to see what it should look like, I made the videos because that helps me. And, oh, and you can help one of our compassion kids if your family wants to go do that. You can do that on our website too. And then this last page is just a little bit more about me and about Rinna and the website that I just told you. I'm going to leave this here so I can come back to the Chinese. So let me show you a little bit of what it's like in China so you can see what my kiddos were used to. So this is the first day that I ever met Noah. So we are actually in China in this picture. We're in northern China. We're in a city called Qingdao. And this is just a hotel room. The hotel rooms look very much like hotel rooms here. They look the same. And in this case, they said, well, we just have only Noah's getting adopted today, so we'll just bring him to you at the hotel. So we could hear him coming down the hall. We're so nervous, you know, and then they knocked on the door and suddenly there he is. And this is the first day. Well, we can't talk to Noah yet, right? But does that matter? Not really. I'll be honest, I've met a whole lot of kids I can't talk to in my life, and I found it doesn't matter if you can talk to somebody or not, you can still be their friend. You can still play with them. And so that's what we did. We brought a big bag of toys because we didn't know what he liked, but just little things, and we thought we'll see what he picks out, and then we'll play with that, and then we'll know. And can you guys see from the picture what he picked out? Lego. Yeah, he loves Lego, which is great because our family loves Lego. We are overrun with Lego. And so here's Toby showing Noah how to do Lego. And that's what we did. We started playing together, and there's Rinna and Rachel hanging out with him. Here's the first day we ever met Ethan. Now, if you remember from the book, Ethan and Anna were from closer together. So they said, well, we'll just bring them both to you at the adoption office. So in this picture, we're in an office, you can see. And you can tell what Ethan decided to play was Uno. You can play Uno with anybody in the world. It's a great way to learn your colors and numbers. I'm seeing that Toby is holding an 8, and that would be Ba in Chinese. I learned my Chinese numbers from Uno. And here is Anna. Anna is, the girls are giving her some little dolls. This is the first time we met her, but we found out later what she really loves is art. She would draw, Rinna gave her some art stuff, and she has started drawing in our hotel room and never stopped since. She just loves it. And then this is the first picture we ever took as a family. So we had met Ethan and Anna about an hour before this picture. And so here we are, and you can see on the wall, here are those characters I talked about, and underneath it are letters. But I'll tell you, the only reason there are letters on the wall is because we're in a foreign office. They know foreigners are coming to this office, but if you walk around China, you almost never see letters. Unless it's a foreign company, you're not going to see letters. You're just going to see characters, and that's how they write. So, you know, in English, we have 26 letters, and we mix them all up and make different words, right? That is not at all how they do it in Chinese. So in Chinese, if you can picture in your head, every one of these fits into a square, and every one of them is its own word. So you have to learn a character for every single word. So if you were in kindergarten, you know how here in kindergarten they give you that special paper that's got the 2 lines with the dashes in between to start learning your letters? In China, if you were a kindergartner, you would get different paper. Your paper would have squares all over it, and inside the square would have a plus or an X, it depends on where you're from, just to help your brain keep track of where all these little lines go. And you would start in kindergarten, they want you to learn your first 100 characters. By the end of 3rd grade, you would need to know about 2,000 characters. By the end of high school, you need to know 8,000 characters. By the end of college, you need to know at least 12,000 characters. They don't even know how many characters there are because China is so old, it's so ancient, that they keep finding old books that have characters they even forgot about. So nobody even knows how many there are. They think there's between 50 and 70,000 characters. And a Chinese proverb says, even the most learned professor cannot know them all. So you can't know them all. Here's one of the most famous ones though. This one right here is Zhong, and that means China. So, yeah. Okay. So here is the street. When I walked out of my hotel up in that city I was in with Noah, when I walked out of my hotel and I turned left, this is the street I was on. I thought this street was so cool. And if you look at the buildings, do they look old or new? Old, right? Super old. And that's because they are. This street here was 700 years old. And in America, we think something's pretty old. If it's 200 years old, we're like, that's really old. Well, in China, I stood on the Great Wall. It's 3,000 years old. We saw things in China that were so old. Well, this is called a hutong. Hutong means old city. That's all it means. And what happened is China has all these old cities, right? And when the new cities started growing up and getting bigger and bigger, they didn't want to tear down the old cities. So they just built around them. So when you go to the big cities in China, most of them have these little pockets of old city called hutong. And this is the big open square in the middle. But if you start going off the sides, there's all these little alleyways, right? And they're narrow. They built these way before cars. In fact, you're not allowed to have a car in the hutong because they don't even fit. You would have a motorcycle at most, but you'd probably have a bike or you walk. But as you get off the sides, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and it gets like a maze. And it looks almost like a hallway, but outside, because they're just these big walls with doors in the walls and no ceiling. And the doors in the walls are the people's houses. Now, Anna grew up in a hutong. She lived in a hutong when she was a little girl. And what she remembers is it was so confusing to find your way out to the middle to go to school. She would have to count the doors. So she would remember she'd come out her door and she'd turn left and she'd count 4 doors on the left, and then she'd turn right and she'd count 14 doors on the right. And then she had this whole thing that she did so that she could find her way back out to the middle so that she could find her school. Here's somebody's front door in the hutong. Does that look like your front door? No. I loved this door. I thought it was so cool. So I took a picture of it, right? And as I was taking the picture, the people came out. Actually, this is the front door, and they're open. I don't know if you can tell. When they shut, they're just black doors. But they were open. So when I took this picture, they came out. That's why the doors were open. And she was like, "Why are you taking a picture of my door?" I was like, "Because it's beautiful." And she was like, "Oh, do you want to see my house?" And I was like, "Yes." So we went in and saw her house. And it turned out this has such a beautiful door because this was actually a famous house. This had been in their family for 700 years, passed down in their family. And to have, these are signs. This is super fancy Chinese writing, like the way we would write in cursive. This is like cursive Chinese. It's very normal to have signs around your door. Everyone in China puts signs around their door at Chinese New Year. But usually those are blessings. And the idea is when you walk through the door, the blessing should fall on you. But in this case, because this house is actually kind of famous for being so old, this is their family name and motto, and then those are their blessings. But when you walk in, does it look like you're walking inside a house? No, it looks outside, right? I mean, there's a bike. Yeah, it's because you are still outside. When you walk into their house, you actually walk into an outside courtyard. They don't have yards the way we do, but they have like a courtyard, and then all the rooms are on the outside of the courtyard, and they're not connected inside. There's no hallways. There's no way to walk from room to room inside. So like when you wake up in your bedroom in the morning, you want breakfast, you go outside into your courtyard, and then you go into your kitchen room and you eat your breakfast, and then you go back outside to start counting the doors to go to school. And then this is the last picture I have of the hutong. You can see how it's starting to come in and get smaller. I just put this in because I thought it was funny. See, this is like, they can't fit cars, right? So somebody took their motorcycle and tried to make it into a minivan because they were a delivery truck, and I thought it was funny. So that's the hutong. So when I would go out my hotel and I turned left, that's what I saw. But what do you think I saw if I went out of my hotel and I turned right? What do you think that might look like? Let's see. That's what it looked like. Now that's the same city, same corner, same everything, right? Well, Americans, if we look with American eyes at this picture, we think, oh, we're downtown, those are office buildings, right? We are not downtown, we're nowhere close. We're actually kind of out in the boondocks. We're nowhere near downtown, and those are not office buildings, those are just the people's houses. So, every one of these windows is another apartment. China has so many people. China has the highest population of any country on earth. They have 3.5 times as many people as we do. And the thing is, China's the same size as the United States. Actually, we're just a smidge bigger, but we're almost the exact same size. But one whole half of their country is huge mountains. If you've ever seen the pictures of where pandas are from, like those huge mountains, and they have deserts, and so they really can't live in about half of their country. So everybody is smashed on one side over by the Pacific Ocean, and there's 3.5 times as many of them. You can imagine if you took our whole country and you said everybody from California over, you guys all have to move to the East Coast. You all have to be smashed on that side, and there's 3.5 times as many people. How crowded we would be. They are so crowded. They don't have room for houses. They only really have apartments. There are houses in the like if you go out into the rural areas, there are houses, but my kids had never seen a single family home before they came to our house. In fact, we have a 2-story house. They were afraid to go upstairs because they thought we'd have another family up there. They did not know that you could have a whole house by yourself. So if this is your apartment, you've never had a yard, right? But you have had a balcony. Noah tells about, Noah lived in some really big high rises like this, so did Ethan. And he remembers that his whole school lived in this group of like 4 giant buildings, and all the balconies faced each other, and you could go out on your balcony and you knew where your friends' balconies were, so you could yell at your friends off the balcony and be like, hey, meet me downstairs, or let's go play. And he also remembers that he had this old lady that lived next door but one balcony down on the left, and he said she was really nice, and if he had a bad day at school, he could tell her about it on the balcony, and she would throw snacks up to him to try to cheer him up, which I think is really sweet. So, here's another thing. If you lived in this, in China, they don't usually have pet dogs. They might have pets. They don't have as many pets as we do because their apartments are really small, like really small. Like the average Chinese apartment is not even as big as the area we're sitting in right here. So they're really small because there's so many people, there's just not room, right? So they don't usually have as many pets because they just don't want to take space for a pet. But if they had a pet, they're gonna have a cat or a fish or something that can stay in their apartment all the time. Because imagine how annoying it would be if you had a dog and you lived up here, and every time the dog has to go to the bathroom, you have to come all the way down. And then you have to find somewhere the dog's allowed to go. They're not allowed to go anywhere, really. And then you go back up. So we have 2 dogs, as you saw. My kids are so excited about our dogs. And then when we got home, the first thing I did was let my dogs out to go potty. And all my kids started to cry. And I was like, why are you crying that I let the dogs go potty? And it was because they had never seen a yard. They did not know we could own our yard. So they thought that I got home and I was like, oh, I have so many kids now. I'm too busy. I just gotta get rid of these dogs. And I just kicked them out. And I had to be like, no, look, there's a fence. Like the dogs are gonna come back. We get to keep the dogs. And then they were okay. This is just another neighborhood. Here's a neighborhood down where Anna lives. Anna lived in the Hutong, but again, these are the apartments. And then these are the stores. And people look at this picture and they say, Mrs. Shaw, do they not have cars in China? Oh my gosh, they have so many cars in China. They have so many cars and so many people and so much traffic. But again, you don't have a driveway, you don't have a garage. So it is really expensive to have a car in China. So a lot of people don't. They have great public transit. They have subways, they have buses, they have amazing trains. Their trains go 300 kilometers an hour. They're incredible. So most people are gonna bike or walk, and sometimes the sidewalks get so crowded that it's dangerous. People start falling into the road. And so they'll take the road behind it and they'll just shut it and say, no cars on this road. We're only gonna use it for walking, and that's what this street was. Do you guys see anything you recognize? McDonald's. Remember how I said you're only gonna see letters. Remember, letters only if it's a foreign company. But here's how here's how you write McDonald's in Chinese. And yeah, he already saw it. There's another one hiding right here, KFC, right? And that's how you write that. There was KFC everywhere. Noah was so excited that Americans adopted him. He thought he was going to get KFC every day. He was so disappointed. Okay, and then I think this is the last one I'll talk about, and then I'll teach you a little Chinese. So this is the market. So here in America, if we want to buy food, we go to the grocery store and we get a cart, and we usually get about a week's worth of food. And then maybe you put it all in your cart, and then you go to the front and you pay all at the same time, right? That's really not at all how they do it in China. They go to these things called markets. They do have grocery stores the way we do, but they call them Western markets. They're really for visitors. They're not for the Chinese people. Remember, their houses are really small, so their kitchens are really small. They think we're so weird that we keep so much food in our house. They're like, that's a very strange thing to do. In China, the culture would be that you go shopping every day. And you just bring home what you need for that day from the market. And we would go, I don't want to go to the store every day. That would be terrible. But remember, they're all living in high-rise apartments. There's a grocery store literally about every block. So if you're not driving to work, you're going to come home on the train or the bus. When you get off to walk to your building, you're just going to walk through the grocery store, pick up what you need for that night, and then you're done, right? And so in the market, there are like a whole bunch of different stores. So here, this is somebody's fruit store. If I pick up that fruit, I don't take it somewhere else to pay. If I take it somewhere else, I'm stealing it, right? Like this is, if I pick up this fruit, I have to pay that person right then for that fruit. But here's another store right next to it. It's a whole different fruit store. If I pick up their fruit, I gotta pay them. If I pick up their fruit, I gotta pay them. And they might have totally different prices, different fruit. So, but it's one of the reasons the food is so fresh all the time, because people shop every day. So let me show you, I'm going to go back and just teach you a little bit of Chinese, and then I will have a couple minutes for questions. Okay, you're already doing it, and I'm going to tell you one of the most interesting things. When I say to kids, let's learn some Chinese, and they all go, ni hao, ni hao, ni hao. You know you're actually saying it wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so in English, it doesn't matter how we say a word. The word never changes. If I said to you, cow, or cow, or cow, it still all means cow, right? You're going to go home and tell your parents, like, Mrs. Shaw yelled at us about cows. Like, it still means cow, right? It doesn't change. That's not true in Chinese. Chinese is called a tonal language. There are 5 tones, and that means the way your voice is moving. And if you say different tones, the words mean different things. So here's my example. If you say M-A, ma, if I say M-A, if I say it high, if I go ma, and I put it at the end of a sentence, that makes any sentence, it'll make it a question. It's called a question word. But if I say it high in the middle of a sentence, if I go ma, that's mama, mother, mom. If I say it going down, ma, well, I just said some mean words to you. If I say it going up, ma, that's numb, like your hand fell asleep. And if I go down and up and I go ma, that's a horse. You do not want to get these things confused, because you can call your mom a horse. That's what I'm saying. So when they say hello, here, people go, ni hao, ni hao. You're not actually saying it right. See here on the pinyin, it shows us the tone that we're supposed to use. If you want to say it right, you have to go down and up and down and up to get the right words. You're saying, listen, I'm going to do it, and then you try it. We go, ni hao. Try it. Ni hao. Yeah. And do you know you're not really saying hello? Do you know what you're actually saying? Ni means you, and hao means good. So you're really saying, you good. It's like you're wishing good at everybody. You good, you good, you good, you good. And then you remember, I told you, I know it's so exciting. I told you how to make it a question. So if I go, ni hao ma, ni hao ma, I'm saying, are you good? Which is the same as saying, how are you? So now you guys can have a whole question and answer, because we would answer that with how, good, or han hao, really good, really good. So we could say ni hao, and then you say ni hao ma, and then you would say han hao, feeling good, feeling good. All right, boys and girls, we have 5 minutes for your questions. No, we don't. We have 2 minutes for your questions because I can't think about a clock right. Okay, we have 2 minutes for your questions, and I'm sorry about that. I'll take 3 questions. Is that okay? I'll take 3 questions. What's your question? Oh gosh, I have so many songs. Your child is probably the most famous one. Your child, if you look it up on YouTube, you can just Google Jennifer Todd and you'll find me. Yeah. It's not, I'm going to say a bad word at you. It's like a curse. Right there in the pink. Are you? Cool. So, guys, I'm sorry, I misread my clock and I feel dumb. If you have a burning question and your teacher says it's okay, I will stand here and you can ask me for a minute. But otherwise, I'm going to teach you to say goodbye and that will be the end, okay? To say goodbye, we have to go, both times they go down. Okay? And it goes, sai, jian. Sai, jian. And that's goodbye. Sai, jian. And I say, sai, jian.